from the Signature Stylist Dog Grooming Salon. I'm the salon manager here, and today we just wanted to do a short grooming demo on how to keep your long dog's coats well maintained at home and how to brush them in between your dog's groom. Now, I know currently at the moment, due to the coronavirus and restrictions on dog groomers, a lot of people's appointments have had to be delayed and put back. So we just wanted to make sure that all of our customers were able to groom their own dog's coats at home and to give you all the confidence to be able to do it yourself, so that your dog's coat can keep well maintained and we can hopefully give them a lovely, nice little style when they come back in after lockdown. So, before I go on and show you how to actually brush, I just wanted to give you a short bit of information on why it's so important that your dog's coat is kept well maintained in between their grooms. So even though as a groomer, we're important because we need to do your dog's nails, check the paw pads, stuff like that. It's important that yourself as the owner is making sure that this coat is well maintained in between. That's because a well maintained coat promotes healthy skin and coat growth. It also stops mats forming. Now, once a knot has turned into a mat, mats go quite tight to the skin, and that can stop the air from coming to the skin and circulation throughout the coat. And the problem with this is that once it has become matted, we then have to clip this off. And to clip that off, we have to use a short sort of flat blade to go underneath and through the mat itself. So obviously, if you like your dog sleepy and fluffy, if they do get matted, they won't be fluffy anymore and will be more short and smooth. So obviously, this is why we think that it is important to keep your dog's coat healthy and nice and brushed at home, so that when they come back in after lockdown, you're able to get a nice, beautiful, lovely style for your dog. Right then, so I just wanted to talk you through first the tools that are needed for brushing your dog at home. So, I've got 3 tools on the table. They're the main tools that you need for your long-coated breeds, such as your cockapoos, your cocker spaniels, your poodles. All of these breeds, it's so important for them especially to be kept well at home, because say like your cockapoos, they have quite dense curly coats, and if they aren't brushed out on a regular basis, then they can get quite knotty quite quick. So I just wanted to show you. So this is a slicker brush. This slicker brush itself is the green version, and it's from Simpson's online. Now, we think these are really amazing, which is why we use them in the salon, because they blend and flex with the dog's coat itself, which also stops your hand and arm from having any strain at all, because it's bending and you're not having to apply too much pressure. They're also very soft. As you can see, I'm scratching this on myself now, I'm brushing my own skin, and it's not leaving any marks at all on my own skin itself. We always say, obviously, before you do use a slicker brush like this, always apply pressure. So even if you don't buy this one, and you buy, say, one out of a pet store locally or one off a different place online, always when you get the slicker brush itself, put it onto your own hand and your own skin and feel it for yourself, just to see how much pressure you should be applying. Because you don't want to apply too much pressure to the dog itself, because applying too much pressure can cause things like brush burn, which is a rash that will form on the dog's coat and can be quite itchy for them, to be honest. So that is the slicker brush. Again, that's from Simpson's online. There are other versions, but this is the one that we use in the salon ourselves. Next up, you will need a comb. As you can see, my comb has thicker edges on this side and thinner on this one. So you get thinner teeth and thicker teeth. Now, obviously, we use mainly the thicker teeth ourselves for going through wool coats to bring the fur up so it stands up so we can scissor. You need a comb really, because after brushing you do need to check the coat through, and that's because the brush will loosen the fur up, but the comb itself is used to check for any knots or tangles throughout the coat. So this one will keep all of your knots at bay. This one itself is a Colin Taylor comb. You can get different combs such as greyhound combs from online, but this one itself is a Sassy from Colin Taylor. And next up, you want some coat conditioning spray. Now, we always say don't brush a coat dry. The reason why is because brushing a coat dry can actually damage the coat itself and cause more knots and tangles in the future. So we always recommend spraying a light mist of conditioning spray over your dog's coat first to make sure that you're not going to damage the coat, and it also conditions the coat itself. Now this coat conditioning spray is from Chris Christian. It's an ice on ice spray. I use it on mainly my competition dogs myself, but there are other coat conditioning sprays out there that obviously you can purchase yourselves that might be a bit easier to get a hold of. Such as you can get them off Amazon, at your local pet stores. As I said, it's a coat conditioning spray you want, and if you just want to see, this is the one from Chris Christian's that I use on competition dogs myself. There we go. So then, I just want to show you, and just a little demo on just how you would use these tools yourself to brush your dog's coat at home. Now, obviously, this is a model dog, so she's going to be a bit more cooperative than your dogs at home. Now, if your dog's used to being brushed, you should be just as cooperative as my model dog. But obviously some dogs aren't as used to being brushed, mainly especially puppies, and you want to make sure that when you're introducing all these tools to them, you're doing it in a slow and calm, relaxed manner. You don't just want to pick the brush up and just start going at it if your dog's not used to you doing that on a general basis. So what you want to do is, firstly, allow them to sniff all of the tools, allow them to have interaction with them and reward them for this, either giving them their favourite toy or some dogs a high value treat, so that they know that this is okay, these are nice friendly tools that aren't going to hurt them in any way possible. Once your dog is used to all of the tools itself, you can then start to brush. So what I would say is, again, if your dog isn't quite used to it, do the coat in sections. You don't have to get everything brushed in one day. So if you don't want to stress your dog out and have them brushing for too long during the day. I know that we've all got time right now. A lot of us have time right now, but we don't really want to be just keeping your dog there all day, trying to overly stress them by trying to get it all brushed in one go. So what I would do is focus on your main areas which are more likely to get knotted. Now, I know most people have more fluffy legs on their dogs and maybe a smaller body and stuff like that, but the general areas you want to focus on is your legs, because obviously, like I said, your legs are more likely to get matted, especially in this weather at the moment, because at the moment it is quite wet, it's quite damp outside. So when you're coming in from a walk, your dog might have, its fur might be tangled from the mud and the damp outside, so you really want to pay particular attention to these areas. You want to make sure you pay attention to the underbelly and around the armpits. The reason for this, and around the chest area here, the reason for this is because a lot of people use harnesses nowadays, and if your dog is in a harness for a lot of the day, that can cause the hair to sort of clump together like this, and once it is like that, it can start to get all knotty and tangled into there. So I always recommend, and even with the collar as well, because the same can happen just around the neck area there. So I always say that obviously, after every walk, make sure that once you took your harness or your collar off, you just give a quick light brushing around those areas just to make sure, and then check over with the comb, just to make sure that they're not free and they're not going to get matted in the future. Now, obviously, a lot of people have mats behind the ears as well. This is because some dogs maybe, they scratch around that area, stuff like that. And you just want to make sure you're very gentle and careful with the ears, but these are, again, areas you really want to pay particular attention to. So I'm just going to show you how to use the tools themselves. So as I said earlier, you'd use your coat conditioning spray. Now obviously this is a model dog, so I'm not going to spray her with the coat conditioning spray. She doesn't need it, because obviously the fur itself isn't really going to get damaged. But you would just spray it lightly and gently all over at first. Make sure that you miss the eyes. You don't want to spray this into the eyes itself. And you don't want to spray it into the nose or mouth area, or onto obviously the sensitive parts of the dog, such as the sanitary area. Once you spray this into the coat, what I would do is, and I'll just come round to show you. So, when you're brushing the coat, you want to brush the coat in sections. This is because you want to brush into and to the root of the dog itself. Now, if you don't brush it in sections into the root, then you could brush the top layer of the coat here, and that might look absolutely fine and perfect, but mats might start to form deeper into the coat. So what we want to do is, we want to lift it up with our fingers like this, and go from the root just gently down, and you can see how gently the brush is going. You don't want to be going like this or too hard or too heavy. You just want to lightly and gently brush that coat down, just like that. And as you can see, the hair itself will start to go more fluffy and light with each brush. So what you're essentially doing is stretching the hair itself, and it shouldn't look as curly as it did before. So if you say had a poodle, the coat might start to get more wavy as you're brushing through. Once the coat's thoroughly brushed through like that, again, you want to make sure you're brushing in sections. You want to get a comb, and the same again, combing in sections, just comb through from the root and just check that there's no knots or tangles in the coat itself. As you can see, there are no knots and tangles in her anyway, because again, she is a model dog. But if you do find any knots or tangles, don't try to like just pull and rip them out or anything like that. Go over with your brush again. Try and tease them through gently. You don't want to rip or pull. If you find a mat, which will be obviously, like I said, more solid into the leg itself, I would personally leave that and call your dog groomer and ask for their advice first on the best way to removal. It may mean that a professional needs to see your dog first and just remove that for you. Okay? Again, like I said, with the areas like the ears, you just want to be nice and gentle, and you don't want to be overly brushing. Now, if you overbrush an area, then you could end up with what is known as slicker burn or brush burn. Now, brush burn will leave a sort of rash over the dog's coat. Now, it's not too much of a worry. You can use something like Lucillin, so if you accidentally did cause brush burn on your dog, if you spray them with sort of Lucillin, or even if you contact your vet if you are worried, just to ask for further advice, it shouldn't cause too many problems, but it just may mean that the area is a bit sore and a bit itchy. But to avoid that, as I said, make sure you're spraying with coat conditioning spray first, and you're using the slicker brush very gently and not over brushing in the same area. You want to be constantly moving on from the areas to the upper areas like so, just to make sure that you're doing it safely and calmly. There we go. So, thank you for joining us for our brushing demo today. We hope you all have a lovely time, and we hope to see all of our customers after lockdown is over.